going to adjourn, or excuse me, before I adjourn closed session, I want to ask County Council if you could report out, please. Board Council.
So there's no reportable action on our first closed session related to public employee performance evaluation. On our second closed session item related to potential litigation, one case, the board has rejected the tort claim that was submitted.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll adjourn closed session and go to next item 5, Director's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to refer the board to a handout that's at your places. Once again, the library is part of the Voters' Choice Act, and we have something going on in all of our libraries, whether we're ballot drop-off sites or voter service centers. 11 of our libraries are voter service centers. 26 of 28 branches. We have 2 in the Delta that will not be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Election Day because Walnut Grove is a voter service center, and they will be open. But one of the things that we did was decide to keep all the branches open since there was confusion during the primary around where to drop off your ballot. And we thought, well, one way to address it is just to open up the libraries. And I didn't have a chance to thank the Friends when they were here, but the Friends of the Library are stepping up to volunteer, help staff. We have other volunteers who will help us with those 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. hours and other hours in between. We also have a number of programs related to voting happening in October, including a ballot explainer with the Project for an Informed Electorate, an event with the Huffington Post and Sacramento Bee. It's a Listen to America tour from the HuffPost, a Democracy Cafe on October 21st, and my personal favorites, at a couple of our story times, kids are going to be able to vote on their favorite storybook characters, which is something I wish I could do in today's world. Also, teens who are 18 will be doing voter registration drives. And then finally, unrelated to voting, Leslie Lowe, who wrote the book No Place to Go about the crisis of the lack of public toilets in our culture. She's actually Canadian. She will be speaking on Sunday, October 7th. I also want to mention that we've been working with the Renaissance Society from Sacramento State University, and tomorrow I get to be their keynote speaker, and I'm really excited to talk about what is a library in the 21st century, because we even talk about public toilets. That's my report. Happy to answer questions.
Any questions for Rivka? No? Okay. Well, thank you, Rivka. You're the perfect person to do that. Libraries in the 21st century. So
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. Next item, 6, information. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I just have one.
Okay, Director Frost.
I have one question regarding item 6.9, the Orangevale Library update. And I just wanted to refer everyone to the 3rd paragraph. That this update is kind of an overview of some of the activities over time that the county and the library authority have been exploring possible expanding to a new location in Orangevale to expand the space of our Orangevale Library, which is very small. And in that 3rd paragraph, there's a statement regarding the JPA agreement and the fact that future library facilities would be required if they move to if they expand, or if new libraries are started in an area, it would be up to that jurisdiction to then be responsible for that lease. I want to ask for us to explore the interpretation of the JPA agreement on this, because it seems like it's the assumption that if we were to take our existing 4,300 square foot Orangevale Library and expand it to 8 or 10,000 square feet, then we would be responsible for then the county would be responsible for the entire square footage. But my premise on this is that we're not opening a new library in Orangevale. It's the existing library that's just getting a little bit bigger. And there are other libraries that have expanded in the past that have not necessarily taken on the entire cost of the facility. And so I would like for us to, I question that interpretation of the JPA agreement. I've read this a couple of times, and I would like to ask for us to explore how we interpret that, and I'd like to know how other libraries have been treated in the past that have, like if Galt expands their library, do they then pay for their whole library from that point forward? You know, how does that work?
Do you want me
Director, would you, we'll just weigh in on the fund balance?
First of all, they're really good questions, because we are this very interesting Frankenstein monster as a JPA. Galt is different because the city owns the building. So there's a small lease that we've paid. It's been the same, I think, since we started operating the Galt Library. So that challenge of who pays the lease comes in when we're talking about leased facilities. But, you know, for example, the City of Sacramento built 3 new libraries. They own the building. The buildings, we simply operate them. Elk Grove, the same instance.
So when you add to the Galt Library, will your lease payment go up?
Well, unfortunately, we're not able to add to the Galt Library. We're only able to change out the carpet and do some painting. There's not an expansion going on. So that's the example.
Okay, I'm still confused by that interpretation that basically if the way it interprets it, if there is expansion, like there's a new library in that area, then that new library would then be the responsibility of that party to the JPA agreement.
That's correct.
But this is not a new library. We have a library in Orangevale. We're just moving it. We're just moving
It's a
our
lease.
library.
That's true. It's a lease.
So that technically is not another library. We're not adding a library to the system. We're just expanding it a little bit.
Well, I think that's where we have to have an interpreter.
That's why I'm asking.
We're going to
We don't
defer
have
to
to
our
answer this
attorney.
today, but I would like our legal to look at that, and I would like to know, because I interpret it differently than maybe what staff is interpreting it as.
So maybe if the board is willing, inclined, maybe we can get a report on that specific item and that part of the JPA and bring it back for the next meeting for a conversation.
Thank you. Perfect.
Our attorney is nodding, so yes.
All right, okay, everybody's not.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want, just on that point, I think to maybe put just a little finer point on it, certainly hearing what Supervisor Frost has put forth, but again, recognizing the premise that's built into as well as obviously the guiding declarations that are in the JPA, it would seem to me where you have a library, at least a base footprint for a library that were costs that would be assumed, that's kind of the minimum, that if the expansion is additive, that's part of what was being discussed here, but maybe there's still some shared apportionment, because unless you were going to close the library altogether, then you were going to have some cost for library and have. I mean, Orangeville's had a library for 100 years in one form or the other. It would seem to me that maybe there's the ability, and again, I don't know, maybe subject to interpretation to what the chair said, and certainly what Rivka added. But I would think we might want to take a look at that again, because we're entering an era, obviously, where we're looking to improve upon our library system. It's been ongoing, but where you actually had a base facility, it may be inadequate, maybe sorely lacking in space and so forth, but maybe you get some consideration for at least having the core foundational piece of that, and again, if it's explicit in the agreement, then maybe it doesn't give us any room for interpretation. But I certainly would take a look at that there's a shared arrangement that still falls back to the county in this case for the additional space. But if you had a core space and you maybe use 2007 as being as the basis, that's when the agreement was entered into, you had a library, it was 3,000 square feet or whatever, you're going to go to 13,000, so you quadruple the size of the library potentially. But would there still be some shared costs with the JPA for that core space that
Well, the shared
pre-existed?
costs are the result of additional staffing, additional materials, additional technology, those kinds of things. That's where the authority comes in.
Right.
But the building itself, and I think, again,
Okay.
I want smarter minds, I want legal minds to review this. But I think the issue is the difference between who's responsible for operations and staff and collections and materials, and who's responsible for the basic infrastructure of the building.
Okay.
Okay, Director Slowey, and then I'd like to, let's table this, because I have a feeling we're going to revisit all these comments and conversations back, but I know, Director Slowey, you've been waiting. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, my comments were covered by others, so I'll hold off till we actually have the discussion.
Okay. Director Frost, can I ask you, can we bring it back? Because we're not going to resolve anything today.
Just quickly, that if the point well taken that the authority could pay the existing lease and the county could pay the delta to the new lease. It could be that interpretation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there's no more comments on any of the information items, I'm going to move to consent item 7, and can I ask Ms. Beamer for an action summary.
Move the consent calendar.
You don't want to hear consent? Okay, fine.
We don't usually read the action
Oh, you don't
summary
usually read the
because
action-
it's
okay.
in the packet.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Next item, Sacramento County Fund Balance Workshop.
Okay. So this has been an issue that we've been talking about for the last several months. So I'm going to turn it over to Johnny to go through the PowerPoint that's should be at your places, as we realized there was we sent the wrong one in your packets. So we want to just provide a little bit of history around what some of the issues are and what our recommendations are. But we don't have any action today. This is simply to make sure that we have all of your questions so we can address them and then come back at a future date for action.
Okay, yeah, so thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board. A wonderful clerk had reminded me to ask you to make sure you have the item, it's item 8.0, where it says corrected on the very right-hand corner. So we've updated the schedules to be in line with our budget for fiscal year 2019, which is the next item. So once again, welcome to the General Fund Reserve Policy Workshop. As Rivka had mentioned, this is intended for discussion purposes, so there's no voting required for today. Just as a reminder, the library's main funding sources are, by way of county property tax revenues at about 55%, and City of Sacramento contributions from the general fund at 22% and 18% from parcel taxes, and then the remaining 5% from miscellaneous fines and fees. So the question is, what's a fund balance? The basic definition is the difference between assets and liabilities. And then in the accounting rule, it's assets minus liabilities equals fund balance. So this is the basic definition that the finance folks are familiar with, and as well as the non-final finance
I'm
folks.
sorry, before you go on further on, could you go back to the first page? We don't have it in our packet, so I was busy trying to find it and didn't. I have two that say corrected, so.
It should be one of the ones that says corrected. One of the ones? Well, if you have two, it's because Angelique was coming and I put one out for her.
But the corrected copy didn't have that first slide. That's the point. It didn't have the breakdown.
Do you have
back,
Is it missing this one right here?
okay.
Yeah.
That page right there. Yeah, that's just.
Yeah, that's not in the packet. So,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was trying to find it and I didn't hear what you
Oh.
had to say.
So we apologize, but this is also in the budget pages as well too. So once again, it's these are the three primary funding sources for the Sacramento Library. 55% from the county property tax revenues, and about 40% from the City of Sacramento, and 5% from miscellaneous fines and fees. Again, the basic definition of fund balance, assets minus liabilities equals fund balance. And then, as you know, the city and public agency finances were also governed by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. And GASB 54 requires agencies to separate the fund balances into 5 different categories. The non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. The majority of our fund balances are in the restricted column section, which is restricted for the county branches and also restricted for city branches. So we'll dive more into the concept of restriction. So again, we have fund balances in the county branches, and the majority is in the unreserved category. And unreserved means it hasn't been earmarked for any library expenditures or any purposes yet. Similarly, with the City of Sacramento, we have what's called the general branch expenditures and parcel tax, Measure X, unrestricted fund balances. I mean, restricted fund balances, but unreserved. And then unreserved is, again, it means that it has not been earmarked for any library expenditures, including operational costs or capital expenditures. So the purpose of a fund balance policy, so we did some research on this, and I know it just varies from one agency to the next. So the purpose of a fund balance reserve policy is to help maintain and mitigate current and future financial risk, such as from revenue shortfalls, economic downturns, or unanticipated expenditures. And it also helps with cash flow needs. So if you do not have fund balances, you'll have a hard time paying for payroll and accounts payable expenditures. Also, it's to help ensure long-term fiscal sustainability. So the common question is, what should the reserve level be? And it's not an easy solution. One size does not fit all. So based on our survey and research, the most recent survey that we did in finance, it ranged from 10 to 67%. And this varies depending on the size of the organization and the revenue sources and so forth. A previous survey back in about 5 years ago with the California Finance Officers Association, it ranged from 5% to 125%. So based on what we saw, the smaller agencies tend to have a higher percentage, whereas a larger agency typically have a smaller fund balance. So that's not uncommon. And we also surveyed our partner agencies, so the City of Elk Grove, Citrus Heights, Galt, Rancho Cordova, and so theirs range from 14.25% to 25%, and one agency actually have 30% in actual reserves.
Johnny, we got a quick question.
Yes.
Ms. Peters?
Yeah, thank you. When you did the survey, what libraries were in the survey? Were they around here? Were they in Southern California? Were they in New York? What libraries were they?
We actually looked at local government jurisdictions.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So the survey we did, the 10 to 67%, that's based on local finance, cities and JP and so forth. So it's not just libraries, but pretty much all of the California public agencies.
Well, isn't that what you surveyed for library partner agencies?
The partner agencies, these are our library partners. So Elk Grove, Citrus Heights, Galt, and Rancho Cordova.
It's the cities.
Okay, so you didn't survey libraries, you surveyed cities. Is that what you're saying?
We surveyed other JPAs. We surveyed
Of what kind? I mean,
Just our partner agencies, so
Well, there are
Elk
two
Grove,
questions.
Citrus Heights.
The partner agencies that we surveyed are the local jurisdictions where we provide library services. So we
Okay.
talked to the cities of Elk Grove,
Okay,
whatever.
got that.
In terms of other agencies that we looked at throughout the state of California, it was a variety of local government entities, JPAs, and other organizations. Other, like cities and local organizations.
Yeah, cities and other public agencies that,
just wondering why surveys, or cities are considered appropriate for a library JPA to compare to.
Well,
that was just to get a sense of what other public agencies are doing in terms of, the general fund reserves. And the items in red, the 14 to 25, that's specifically the partner agencies that we have within the
Yeah, I
library.
understand that part. It's just the recent survey and previous survey, I would just like to know more about what was surveyed and why you chose that. Is that a standard in the library business, or?
well, we're kind of, I don't want to say making this up as we go along, but it's somewhat unique. There are only 4 JPAs in the entire state of California that provide library services.
Okay, so then when you described JPAs in cities, was it the library JPAs that were included?
We weren't able to get any information from them. We're still working on trying to get some information from other libraries, but we looked at mostly cities and counties. We used the, GFS.
Yeah, so typically in the finance arena, we send a survey to other California finance officers. So we did not selectively pick libraries only or special districts only. We just sent it out to all the public agencies and asked them to respond what the general fund
Well, maybe you
policy
could
is.
send me a list of the agencies you
Okay.
surveyed, and that might answer my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Director Carr.
Well, except for fines, the money to the library comes from the cities and the counties. So it's very instructive to see how they view their risk. And I think it's still a good place to look to get an assessment as to what our risk should be.
That's
Great.
why we're doing the workshop, because we want to learn from it to figure out what we missed. So that makes sense. We can see what we can find.
Director Hewer.
I'd like to see the survey or the partner agencies be of a similar budget. You know, did you survey budgets that were similar to our JPA budget, to the library budget, to our overall budget, to compare it with what are the reserves of other agencies with a similar budget?
That was a question that we actually discussed, and we did look at. We tried not to do anything that was too big. There's no point in doing something like the County of Los Angeles, or we looked at agencies that had comparable budget size in some cases, but we also looked at ones that were smaller as well as a little bit larger. That's my recollection, but
Yeah, we took all the responses, and some are comparable to our budget. I think Carlsbad was a city that responded, and they had about $50 million budget, and their reserve was actually about 40%, but their target is a higher amount. So again, we did not specifically target just libraries or special district. We sent out the survey and hoping that people responded. And I think we got about probably 3 dozen responses, so we can certainly share that with you.
So you tried to use agencies that were within some proximity to our budget, or within a range of our budget, like throw out ones that are really low or really high, or?
Yeah. This is just the low to the max, so we didn't pick comparable budgets.
Okay.
But this is just to point out that based on our survey, this is what we got. So the low is 10% to 67%. So any other questions on that?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question. Regarding the reserves, in the JPA agreement, item 11, and I think it starts with paragraph 5. It talks about annual supplemental funding, and it has a very thorough overview of how the funds would be treated for each of the parties to the agreement. The parties to the agreement are the county, which consists of the county, unincorporated county, and all the cities, and then Sacramento City is separate. But in the JPA agreement, it then concludes at the end of that section how to treat the reserve, how the reserves would be treated, how supplemental funding amounts would be at the discretion of each of those parties as to how they spend them, and how separate reserves would be set up for each. So this is the only JPA agreement I have, and this, I'm not clear on how the treatment of the reserves in this overview corresponds with the JPA agreement. So I would like to look at that.
Okay.
May I?
Go ahead.
It's
Yes,
clear
Director. Yeah.
that, we were flying blind. We worked on this. I think Johnny and Kurt did a great job getting us started, but it also appears that this is a very rough draft, and we also are cognizant of the time and aware that 2 of our directors have to leave within a few minutes. With the board's permission, what we would like to do is, we want to make sure we have your question, and we will go back and do some additional work, and then come back to the board with more information at the October meeting. I think that's only fair to all of you, because clearly there's still some work to be done on this.
And actually, I have several questions that in writing I can submit that maybe we can put in the record and make sure that we get answers to those questions when we approach the next workshop. But there was one issue relating to the budget and the funds that are dispersed.
Right.
I have nothing against Galt and Sylvan Library. I love them both. But I also love Orangevale.
Yes.
And about a year and a half ago, I noticed there was about 25 million in reserve. And I said, why can't we get something better in Orangevale? And since that time, the 25 is now down to 18 million, which the budget assumes, 5 million spent in other areas, but Orangevale is no closer to, I don't feel like, I want to understand this JPA agreement. I feel like this JPA exists to administer funds and resources so that each of the parties to the agreement can achieve their goals. And Orangevale is a part of that. And I'm trying to fight for Orangevale. So part of the budget is the 5 million that's allocated. Can we, can we pull that out and talk about that when we talk about at a later time?
Okay. I mean, maybe that's more appropriate. I was going to say this is related but not contingent upon passing the budget. Just want to be clear.
But the budget makes assumptions on
the
fund balances, and there's nothing in there about Orangevale.
Well, because Orangevale is part of the unincorporated area of Sacramento County, and the agreement is actually between the 5 city counties, the City of Sacramento, and the County of Sacramento. So Orangevale is considered within that, the jurisdiction of Sacramento County. I think.
Actually, Orangevale and all the cities except for Sacramento City are on the county side. And so this actually,
Right.
how the money is managed, every party to those cities that are on the county side are a party to this agreement, this JPA
Yes.
agreement. And tax dollars are collected in each of those jurisdictions. And so there's a certain amount of money that flows in that in theory should feed their libraries in those areas. Same with the county. And so if there is a party to this JPA that does not feel that they're represented, and Orangevale is underrepresented,
Okay, thank you.
then I feel like we need to go back to the JPA agreement and see, well, maybe we are represented. I'm just trying to get answers to the questions.
Director Slowey.
Thank you. One thing I think, Rivka, as you work through this, that you need to make clear to everybody on the board is, we set aside 10% into reserves every year, and that is looked at differently than I think what Sue talks about if you have supplemental at the end of the year. Right. So once it goes into reserves for operations, it doesn't come out on a whim at the end of the year. And I just think we need to be very clear on that, because it kind of, and again, Sue will have this conversation, but it kind of sounds like you're saying we got this pool of money and you think you should be able to spend some of it in Orangevale if it's not represented. And that money is not for that purpose. It's for ongoing operations of the library, and it comes from that 10% we set across each year. Additionally, when we do the budget, we look at, and for the several years, we've pulled money out of that to hit operations, but it is not a capital expense to go out and, acquire new libraries or expand. So I just think, Rivka, you need to be clear, what the purpose of, and it's written into the, the document. So we can certainly have that discussion, but. I just think the JPA has worked well because everybody tries to treat, people equally. And if you can make a case that you're underrepresented, I'm sure we'll listen. But taking money for the reserves, that's not the purpose of it. And I just want to be 100% clear that we put 10% aside each year for ongoing operations, and that's not to be, it's never been considered supplemental to be looked at the end of each year whether a particular jurisdiction can spend it.
Well, actually...
Excuse me, Director Frost. I'd like to continue this item then, bring it back with a conversation about the JPA. If nothing else, just an informational. I mean, many of you have been on this board a long time, and I feel like I'm at a disadvantage. I don't think I'd like to just let's get a presentation on the GPA as well as this fund balance workshop. We can have a full conversation about them both. Would that be okay with you or everybody?
Yeah, I would just ask to have everybody submit the questions they have now, submit them in writing so that they can be addressed.
Yeah.
Hopefully when it comes back.
Okay.
I'm okay with that too, but I also think for transparency's sake, the amounts in each jurisdiction's supplemental funding ought to be in the financial statements and in any presentation you make to us. I think it would help clear up some of the confusion about how the money's split up and what it's been done.
What do you mean by supplemental funding? I mean, what everybody contributes in sales tax? Or, I'm sorry, in property tax?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's fine. I mean, that should be public information. I don't think there's any supplemental contributions from any agency up here.
Well, they use the word supplemental quite a bit in the document.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's possible there's confusion of terms.
Could be. Fair enough.
And there's a clear calculation in Appendix B of the JPA contract that talks about how to calculate those funds for each of the parties in the agreement.
All right. So let's continue this item, and then we'll bring it back together with the JPA as well.
So you're continuing the fund balance?
The fund balance conference workshop. Yep.
And we're going to submit our written questions to get answered.
Yep.
Okay.
And maybe we can have those written questions published as part of the staff report too, and along with the answers.
Yes.
So it'll be a comprehensive presentation. Thank you. Next item.
Item 9.1, fiscal year 2018-19 final budget, position control, and fine and fee structure.
Once again, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Authority Board. So before you is the September final budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019. This is mainly a true-up of the May budget that you had already adopted back in the May 2018. Revenue totals about $45.3 million, and expenditures at about $51.8 million. And then, as mentioned earlier, we're recommending to use approximately 6.5 million fund balance, and most of this is from the county reserves at about 5.2 million. So out of that 5.2, 3.6 million is for the Sylvan Refresh Project, which is $2 million. The Elk Grove the Galt branch project and the Rancho project. Additionally, we added hours to 9 county libraries, one of the larger ones, which equates to approximately 100 hours additional. And then also about $500,000 in books and material. So the budget as recommended is balanced, and the board to approve this final budget. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions? Johnny? Director Frost?
I just, did anyone else have questions?
Yeah, Director
Let's go
Natoli
to him
does.
first.
You're just on, oh, it was from the last one? Okay. Yeah, Director
Yeah.
Natoli.
Thank you. On the, what's the split between the refresh at Galt and Rancho Cordova? Is 1.6 million, you said? What's the split there?
The split?
Yeah, how much is going for Rancho? How much is going for Rancho? How much is going for Galt on the refresh?
Galt is approximately $160,000 with the library taking 130 and the City of Galt sharing in
Okay.
some of the additional costs. So Rancho is,
1.4 million?
no,
Rancho is about, do you have the?
Sylvan Oaks is the,
2 million.
that's 2 million.
Okay, but you got
Yes.
3.6 in there, so that's what I'm trying to get to. I didn't know how that was split. So if it's 160,000 for Galt, that leaves you only about 1.4, a little less for.
Rancho Cordova, I know, is 200 plus. Do you have it, Jared? Okay. Yeah, I thought it was more like around 300,000.
Okay, so how do we get
Sorry.
3.6 million then?
That's other,
The difference is all the deferred maintenance, and these are from.
Well, that's what I meant too. I'm sorry, I didn't say
Yes.
defer, but you're going to put it into those two libraries, and so Rancho and Galt are going to get the remaining portion for deferred maintenance and refresh.
yes.
The Galt is for refresh and Rancho is for refresh, and then there's also deferred maintenance throughout the county libraries. And these are to buy chairs, tables, and then miscellaneous carpet replacement and so forth.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So we
deferred maintenance.
separate deferred maintenance, and it's things like a table is splintered, so we replace the tables.
Right.
The chairs break. we
But that's
replace the chairs.
system-wide then.
And that's system-wide county locations.
Okay.
Correct,
How
sorry.
much was that?
That was about $1 million, I think, for deferred maintenance.
Just trying to get to, what's everything that's in the $5.2 million?
Okay.
So everything in the 5.2 million, so 3.6 million is for the building refresh, including deferred maintenance.
That's countywide?
Correct, countywide. And approximately $800,000 for additional hours. And then $500,000 for books and material. And the other two amounts are from the cost allocation plan that, so this is the overhead portion of the cost for the county and city branches. And also the MOU obligations with the recent
library.
union negotiations.
Okay.
And then Galt, Rancho Cordova, and so on.
Right.
So if I could just be really clear, so then Sylvan's 2 million, Galt's about 140 to 160 with some share from Galt, and Rancho's about 200,000, and the rest is deferred maintenance,
Correct.
system-wide.
Deferred
right?
maintenance.
And
then-
some collections.
Right.
And then we're also recommending that you allow us to add we are adding some positions in the libraries that are now open 7 days a week on the county side. And then we are asking to budget $200,000 that we don't exactly know if we're going to spend, but it's to create 3 generic library worker positions. So if we need to hire somebody and the board isn't going to meet, we can go ahead and create a position, hire the person, and then bring it back to the board. We want to budget the funds for that. So we're trying to be a little proactive because sometimes we're fairly tightly staffed in many locations, and we thought this would add flexibility.
Could just add, Mr. Chair, I know time's short here, just good. So the difference in the branch refreshes is significantly different in cost. So could someone just in a minute tell me why it's $2 million over here is only 100, I know different size libraries, I get that, footprints, but only 160 for Galt and only 200 for Rancho.
Well, because Rancho was refreshed a few years ago, and what we're doing is going back in, and we're doing some paint, some carpet, we're cutting down the shelves, and we're finishing out some work that didn't actually get done when we did the refresh, I think 6 or 7 years ago. It's since I've been here.
So you're doing a full makeover at Sylvan?
We did, and we're doing a full makeover at Sylvan Oaks, which hasn't been touched since.
That helps understand it. 'Cause again,
Sorry, we should have stated that more clearly. Sylvan Oaks, as you all know, because you all deal with buildings everywhere, we have real deferred maintenance issues. And while we operate the buildings, it makes sense. We have to have them be as efficient as possible to keep our minimal, because we don't have a lot of staff. So that's partly what's happening at Rancho is to make it easier.
I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, sorry, we should have, So it took me a while to absorb the question.
Director Hewitt?
So, Rivka, my understanding in Galt was that you were going to do the cut down of the racks, the shelves.
Yes, we're reducing the shelves.
Because we've allocated money for new roofing. That's coming out of our city budget because we own that building. So I think it's $30,000-$40,000 to re-roof a section of the, and then the paint and. My understanding is also we're paying for the paint and the refresh inside the building in Galt. The only thing my understanding was maybe there were some furnishings and the shelves and maybe some work up at the front desk.
We're redoing the front desk.
That was being done by the library authority.
We're doing,
or the JP.
but we're also doing new carpet.
Oh, okay.
Right, so there are a number of things, and we can provide more detail if you want to see that, but.
Well, that was the report I had gotten from
Steve.
My staff was that was, that a large portion of it, I mean, we're going to be closed for the 6 weeks, but a large portion of it was being done by the city at the same time in which, since we were having to close it for the county to do the shelves.
Correct. It made more sense to do a one-time closure and refresh than it would to draw it out.
The metal roof that was supposed to last some large amount of years
Does not.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Continue, John.
I think
Director Frost, go ahead.
Quickly ask how you decided which libraries get additional hours, because I was in one of my community meetings the other day and I said the libraries are expanding hours, and Orangevale said, well, we're not, they were like, well, they're not expanding our hours. So
Part of the decision was made based on the number, the literal footprint of the buildings. So all the libraries that got extra hours on the county are all libraries that are a minimum of 10,000 to 12,000 square feet on up. And they already have the staffing necessary to be open the extra hours with the help of a few substitutes to cover things like Sunday hours. So that was why that decision was made. We didn't expand, for example, Rio Linda, Galt, Orangevale, they're all much smaller footprint with an FTE of like 3 to 4 staff. So that was the reasoning behind it.
They know they're a smaller footprint.
We know.
Thank you.
Director Natoli.
Yeah, just a very quick question, and it maybe goes in line with some of the conversation this afternoon, is that we're doing refresh on existing sites, and with, I think, some of the questions regarding Orangevale, recognizing the distinct aspects of the funding streams and what they go for. if you went into a site that needed to be converted, and could that be considered a refresh? If you were going into a former Walgreens pharmacy, obviously you do lease negotiations regarding the square footage, but if you were going to fix that up into, and maybe this is already contemplated, and put in the shelving, put in the facilities that would serve as a library versus a pharmacy, is that something that on an interpretation could be considered, because that can in effect have a net effect on the overall lease, depending on who did the TIs, and it might be a way to get to part of the question here, still stay within the framework of what we do relative to the library.
Right now, that's not covered under the JPA, but I'm going to defer to our attorney for a more legalistic interpretation.
And
But
not
right
for the
now,
JPA,
on the surface, that is not what the JPA is responsible
I get
for.
it.
And I'll give you an example. The Rio Linda Library is the perfect example of repurposing a building for a library. That money came from the county. It was tobacco litigation money that had been set aside for a new Rio Linda Library, and the county made the decision to use it instead for us to redo an old redo 2 classrooms in the Twin Rivers School District and create a library. So that's.
No, there's history. I'm just.
There's
I
history.
throw it out there as we're.
I
considering
understand.
the realm of possibility. So.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Ready for a motion?
Are we? Or Johnny, you didn't finish your presentation yet, have you?
No, I'm done, so we're looking for a motion from the board.
I move the item.
I have a motion. I have a second, but sorry, Linda. I have a motion by Director Carr, second by Director Budge. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item. 10.0, reports and ideas, questions from the board members. Do I have any reports or ideas? Okay, seeing none, brings us to item 11.0, adjourn. Thank you, everybody.